Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's me, and I've been gone for a little while on the second channel, I'm sorry. You may have been wondering where have I been and why haven't I been putting work on the second channel. Turns out, it's a lot of work to run 2 channels and a podcast pretty much on your own. So I wanted to make a video to bring things back to the fold, discussing a little bit of my creative process with making content for the main channel, and why sometimes my schedule gets away from me, and although I always make sure that the videos are out on time, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of graft to try and get these videos done. So this last month has been called Vilka February, which is a themed month about the Space Wolves, and actually I changed up my schedule a little bit by having an extra video every week, so at the end of it you had 3 small videos plus a long form video every week. I cut down on making the bespoke short videos because I'm going to return them in this next month of March onwards, but it was a real challenge trying to get all these characters done in time, and I wanted to tell you about my process for the longest or second longest video for the entire month, which was Ragnar Blackmane. Now when it comes to doing a character like this, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of fact checking, and you have to pore over a lot of stuff. So let's start with the first step of the process, which is research. Now, contrary to some people's beliefs, I do read the books. I go through everything I can. If you look at, for example, my Cardan Stronos video, if you were to believe that I only read the wiki for my sources, you would be able to understand that he doesn't even have a full page on one of the wikis, and on Lexicanium, he only has like a page. It's not that much to go off, so anyone who says I don't read the books is completely lying. I do read the books. I mean, here is just a little sample of some of the books I've currently got with me that I've read or I'm working through, although I will admit the majority of the stuff I work with is audiobooks, and here's why. So for example, with Ragnar Blackmane, I had to go through 6 books. I had to go through 6 books of research. Oh, I've dropped everything. So as you might imagine, getting through that many could take quite a while for some people, but for me, I managed to get through all 6 in about 2.5 days. So how did I do this? Well, the beauty about audiobooks is that I can listen to an audiobook while I'm doing something else. So for example, I will work on thumbnail design. I'll work on schedules. I mean, hold on a second. I am a bit of a magpie when it comes to notebooks, and I have a bunch of them. And what I usually do with these kind of notebooks is I will jot down a bunch of things that I have to do. For example, here we have feature-length videos I still have to do for my Saturday schedule. Then I'll have, hey look, here's all these Raven Guard characters I still haven't done. And then I'll be like, oh look, here's miscellaneous chapters of Space Marines. I'm meticulous about planning my videos out because if you know where you're going, you can kind of hype yourself up for certain ideas. Sometimes a video like for example Ragnar Blackmane or a big video like that, you don't want to have too many massive videos because 1, you'll fatigue your audience, and 2, you'll be doing so much cramming in like 1 or 2 weeks, and then you might have a few weeks where there's actually small itty-bitty videos. One of the things I get complaints about on my channel is because I do really small character pieces where it's, 1 minute's worth of lore, 5 minutes worth of lore, but I believe that every character that has art and has something interesting to talk about deserves a spotlight, no matter how small the spotlight is. And sometimes with those kind of characters, you only have a video game or 1 codex or some little piece of information to go off. But Ragnar was a completely different story. So as you can see, I've got all these notes, and what I did was I went through all the books with a notebook. At one point I had a small notebook, and then I ran out of pages, and then I had to go to a bigger notebook. And I will just go through and I will jot down notes. Like, let's take a random piece here. This is Ragnar, page 17 of my notes. Sigurd is a young wolf priest. There's Inquisitor of the Order of Malleus Cadmus Vault. They're attacked by raiders on the Chaos teleportation. The Grimnar's great company spread out, dispersed. Thorin and Ragnar, dreams of the Wolfen. And I'll basically take notes and I'll go through it. And I'll usually also have a PDF of the actual book. So if I'm unsure about a character's name and its spelling, or I need to just rejuvenate a little bit of my memory, I can use that as a backdrop. One of the crucial things about finding your space in the Warhammer lore environment is figuring out what your niche is within a niche. My niche is I try to give you the information quick, but not hastily. I try to give you all the juicy details with a little bit of extra thrill, but without getting too much into the territory of rambling or just boring the audience. For me, I try to get to the heart of the issue and get to the point, get to it in a way that's immersive, and not waste your time. That's the way I make content. Once I've actually got all this done, I then have to write a script, and the script writing process can take a day to sometimes a few days. For example, this took 2.5 days of research. Then it took me another, I think it was another, I want to say day and a half. So the end of the third day, that second half of it, I started writing the script. And then the next day I spent about 7 hours, I think, writing the rest of the script. So at this point, we're already at, I'll have to do some maths. So yeah, looking at this, the first Space Wolf book is about 11 hours, but I was listening to it on like 1.7 speed. So we could probably take that down to something like 7.5 maybe. Ragnar's Claw is another 10 hours, 45 minutes. Then we've got 9 hours and a half for Grey Hunter, so let's say that's 20 hours. And then 29 with Wolfblade. That's 40 with Sons of Fenris. And then the last book, Wolf's Honor, you're looking at 11. So let's say 51 hours. Let's take off about a third-ish because it's 1.7. So let's say that took me about 36 hours of research in the span of 2.5 days. So roughly, maths. So roughly maths. I mean, to be honest, I think the first day I spent about 11 hours listening to the first 2 books, and then it was like another 11 hours. So let's say a conservative 30 hours of listening to audiobooks and jotting down notes. But I'll probably do like an overlay of how much it probably took just to do the research. The script writing, it probably took me another 10 hours because even if you have all of this information, you have to put it in your own words. You have to figure out how you're going to make it into chapters. You have to divide it. This was easy enough to divide up because it was just like, okay, we do the first book, second book, third book, fourth book, fifth book, sixth book. And then the 7th chapter was actually, he's in a short story where he's in the Saga of the Beast, where he fights Ghazghkull. It's part of the Champions of Fenris audiobook, like, anthology. So I listened to that. There was a lot of frill and a lot of fluff. Main point is he fights Ghazghkull and he cuts his head off. Like, cool, that's all I really needed to know. And the thing about this is when I make content, I also try not to just tell you every single detail that goes on, because that kind of takes away the incentive for my viewers to go and actually listen to the audiobooks or read the books themselves. I think part of the tightrope that lore channels walk on is we want to give you the information, but we also want to make sure that we don't spoil everything for you. We want you to go and read the books to actually give, some support to the writers who created these stories in the first place. And although there are lots of people who don't have time to listen or read to 6 books about Ragnar Blackmane, they do have interest in maybe watching a 40-minute long video. There's a lot of elitism that goes around these days of people who do lore stuff going, or even people who don't do lore stuff who just say, oh, so-and-so, have they read the books? Have they read the books? And it's like, sometimes the viewers they don't have to read the books. Sometimes people are busy. Sometimes people have careers and families and other things they have to look after. And sometimes people aren't willing to invest that much of their time and effort into a book or a book series. Like, I read all of the Horus Heresy books. There's 50 of them, 50 plus, 60 plus if you count the Siege of Terror. Some people just go, oh, actually, I don't want to devote an entire year of my life to getting this story. Maybe I'll just watch a 7-hour video by the Remembrancer. The research probably takes some of the longest time, but actually my least favorite part is the audio. Now, I have to be clear about this. I enjoy recording the audio, but as is the case with a lot of people who record audio for YouTube videos, depending on the amount of effort you put into it, it can vary in the quality. So this is an SMB7. It's a Rode microphone. It's kind of like the standard. If you've ever seen any podcast ever, this is the microphone they use. I upgraded to this last year because I was using an Audio-Technica 2010, whatever it is, 2110. It's one of those numbery ones. And it was pretty good, but this one's a lot better. It's expensive as far as microphones go, but if you're doing what I do, where every week I'm creating videos where you're listening to just my voice as the only thing that encompasses me, it's an important piece of kit to have. But the thing about creating audio, especially of good quality, is if you can actually listen to this, I've treated the audio a little bit, but you can hear that it's bouncing off the walls in my flat. That's why I actually bought a vocal booth. And before I had a vocal booth, and I was in a flat share in London, I actually would record under the duvet of my bed. So I would literally be huddled underneath with the blanket smothering me to deaden the sound. And especially during the summer, it got warm. And I'd basically be recording maybe I remember one of the most difficult ones I did was some of my Necronovember content. I think I think it might have actually been Trazen. And it was quite a long video, actually, that one. And I was recording it, and there was all these noises going on. There was, where I used to live, there was a church nearby, so every half an hour, you'd hear the bells chiming. There was a school where they kicked out the students at 3 o'clock. There was a pub across the road. There was a walkway. At night, there were foxes. It was dreadful. Here is a lot better. Occasionally, you get a train that goes by. The sea calming of the dragon slain, as the warrior laughed at his trifling victory. Fucking train. Which is a bit annoying, but if you just listen, it's like this all day. It's really quiet. And one of the reasons I picked this place specifically is because I needed it to be quiet for my work. But my least favorite part of the process is actually the audio treatment. I've had a lot of people spuriously think that I'm an AI, funnily enough. There's actually been a Reddit post I've seen recently where they were going, I hate all these AI lore channels, and I agree. And for a little bit, I was on that list. And then thankfully, there were some comments going, no, actually, he's a real person. He has a podcast and a face and everything. Please, he's not an AI. And I think I know why people think I'm an AI sometimes. One, because of my output. A lot of people assume, Andy actually can't make this much content this consistently, this quickly, without cutting corners. And full disclosure, I don't cut any corners. I put in 100 hours a week into this channel. I have been called by some of my friends in the community obsessive, but the point is I'm really passionate about the lore, and I want to get everything in a place where I have the biggest archive of lore that's the most easy to get into. That's kind of the goal. It's making this big archive of content. I'm rambling, but the point with audio is when I go through it, I don't just, add some deverb, clean up some of the background noise. I also tend to silence the breaths between words. So instead of me going, Constantine Valdor went up to the Emperor and gave him a big kiss on the cheeks, I'll cut that gap out where you hear me breathe in. And because of that, it sounds mechanical. But for me, with the way I create it, I want to not distract. I don't want to kind of pull people out of the experience thinking, it's a guy breathing into a microphone. I want it to be more like, you're not focusing so much on my voice, but the story. The voice is an element that encompasses the video so that you are immersed in what's being talked about, not me specifically, which is also a conscious decision of why I don't put my face on the main channel, why I don't put any sponsors on my videos. The reason being because I want people to watch the videos and just get immersed in the universe. And there are I have adverts on my channel like most YouTubers do. But especially if you have YouTube Premium, you can watch my entire catalog without interruption. There's never any point where I'm like, well, hey guys, check out these sneakers from sneakers.com. It's no, it's all about, it's immersive. You're in the story with the character and it's all good. And that's why I also have a character rather than being like, hey guys, it's me, Andy. We're talking about the Raven Guard. And no disrespect to people who do that. But for me and my style of content, my niche, I have to make sure that I am a little bit, I'm setting myself apart in a way that I want to create the content in how, the reason I made the channel in the first place was I wanted to make a channel where when I was getting into the lore, when I was getting into the hobby, I could watch what I wanted to see. And what I wanted to see was, here's someone who doesn't have any frilly language or let's put some attention grabbing thumbnails. Just here's this character, here's the lore. Here's this battle, here's the lore. Let's not waste time. Let's not put any, fan theories or anything like that. Just tell me how it is, tell me how it happened, and please don't waste my time. So that's what I did. It's not the most lucrative type of making lore content by any stretch. I know there's a lot more people who are making a lot more views and a lot more money than I am, but for me, I'm happy with the way that I create because, I can make a bunch of content every week, go to sleep and go, I did a lot of good work. And then a year's time, that work is still getting some views and still doing quite well for the community. So I like that. Now, the most tedious point is, of course, the audio. And then actually, I really enjoy the editing process. There's a lot of people who don't like editing, but for me, I enjoy it. The thing about editing as well is, especially when you do this professionally, you have to figure out, okay, how much do I want to balance output with quality? Because don't get me wrong, I could put way more special effects on my videos. I could drown it in CGI. I could festoon it with sparks and fire and flames and sound effects and all that stuff. But there's also a line where occasionally you can cross that and it becomes so stimuli, like kind of jangling keys in your face, that it distracts people from the actual content, like the stories you want to tell. So for me, I experimented for a while. I found out what my style was, and I went, okay, I'm going to do it this way. I've got my voice, I've got the clarity of my voice, I've got the music I've picked, which I picked music from, old Space Marine games or like old Warhammer games in general. So when it comes to creating content, I have an entire archive of artworks where I segment them into different folders, so I know exactly where, if I'm like, oh, I know that piece of Black Templar art, I can go into my Black Templar folder and it's there. And everything is in place, and every week I'm updating it and adding new stuff. I'm paying for artwork these days because I'm making enough money to use some of my own funds and, of course, some of my Patreon money, and also some of my membership money to cover like a percentage of each artwork commission. I try to get stuff done for scenes and characters that we've not really seen or seen done particularly great. So I will take it upon myself to go, hey, let's make this look really cool. Like at the moment with Space Wolves done, I'm working with George Abalayan to get artwork done of Hager the Mountain and Torin the Wayfarer, because I was reading Wolfblade and I thought, these two are really cool characters. And then I looked up and it's like, oh, they don't really have any artwork. Let's change that, and then I'll make some videos on them eventually. And when it comes to the process of making content, even though I make a lot of small videos and I know that impacts my algorithm, like I work against my own algorithm in terms of like, I'll put up 2 videos a week that most of my viewers don't care about, and they're just there for the Saturday videos. But for me, it's about the long term. It's about, hey, if I'm making this big archive, I want to talk about characters which will obviously do well, like Primarchs or Chapter Masters, but I also want to talk about that one guy who's in one book who did a cool thing, has no artwork, and is kind of a neat novelty in the setting. I don't know. And then once the video is edited and sorted out, and there's a whole video you could do about like editing stuff, but ignoring that for a moment, once you've got the video done, there's also things like SEO, thumbnails, subtitles. One thing I know that I do that a lot of other YouTubers don't do is I will take my script, I will put it on my video as subtitles in English, and then I'll actually go through and I will space it out so that when you're watching the video, there's only ever like 1 or 2 lines, so it's not all clumped together. It flows, it ends with like at the end of a comma, it will then turn to a new phrase so that it's not all like compacted in a kind of untidy way. And you might say, oh, that's quite OCD and blah, blah, blah. But it's good for my viewers that are either hard of hearing or even deaf, which is good for that. And also, once you manually put subtitles on a video, you can auto-translate to different countries. So for example, I have Norwegian subtitles, I have, Indonesian or Korean or Spanish or German. I have all these different languages on the videos. So if you're someone who kind of gets English, but you're like, oh, I don't quite get this, you can watch my videos also having the subtitles and go, there's a subtitle like translation. I can follow along a bit easier, because there's a lot of people who will like watch a video and they'll read the subtitles and they'll be fixed on the subtitles and then they'll glance up. And so it's again, my mentality is give the audience as many tools as they can to enjoy your content, and the content will last, hopefully, for a really long time. When it comes to thumbnails, I keep it fairly simple. I try to have a nice like hero pose of a character. Sometimes the artwork, I try to work with the Marco Pierre White school of teaching, where when he cooks, he just says, let the ingredients speak for themselves. So I'm like, okay, let the art speak for itself. I usually have a frame which is like in a color scheme representative of that faction. Sometimes they're a bit more simple, sometimes they're a bit more complicated. And I also have little logos of each of the factions I'm talking about, just so that at a glance, an audience member can go, oh, I recognize that. Even if they don't know the character, they can instantly go, oh, that's a Space Wolf, that's a Blood Angel, that's an Ultramarine. Oh, I wouldn't have thought that guy was a Dark Angel, but look at him. Okay, fair enough. And then that way, it just helps the audience to understand what you're talking about, and it removes barriers of confusion, which is a really important thing that I think a lot of YouTubers neglect. Like, if I have one piece of advice, which I think is like a really good piece of advice for anyone who wants to do YouTube, try to remove as many barriers of confusion as you can. This goes for titles, this goes for thumbnails, this goes for even compilation videos. Give an easy to understand method for people to approach your content and you will have an easier time of, not having to answer questions in your comment section. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to talk about today. There's more I could go into here and there, but I wanted to give you a brief overview. There's been some aspersions of me lately that I don't read the books, which is poppycock. Doesn't read, can't read, I'm illiterate. And yeah, I wanted to basically just tell you guys about how I make content. And if you want to do content yourself, there's one piece of advice that I would give everyone, and it's really simple, sounds a bit twee, but just get on with it. Start making videos. If you want to do what you want to do, you've got to get started soon. I mean, I never expected to make a living doing this YouTube channel. I just wanted to. I remember when I made my first video on Garvio Loken, I said, oh, no one's done a video about this guy. He's really cool. I guess I'll do it. And then I did it. I got 1,000 views and I went, oh, maybe I can keep doing this. And I've been trying YouTube for like a decade or so with no success. And now I found something I'm pretty good at. And again, even the years when I wasn't successful, I was learning skills. I was growing as a creator. I was adapting. And now I get to do this for a living. And I can't thank you all enough for watching my videos so that I can afford to live in a place like this and create content for you guys and really go like full throttle with let's make the best content I can make with the best tools available and give you guys videos that you'll hopefully enjoy. So yeah, I'm sorry I haven't put a video up in a while on second channel, mainly because first channel takes priority and is a lot of work. But I'm hoping to make sure that the schedule gets a bit better. I have another episode of Fixing 40k out very soon with Dredden on, so hopefully you guys will enjoy that. And rest assured, I'm not going to abandon this channel. It's just a case of I need to work even harder so I have more free time to work on this channel. I think that's the way to do it. Yeah. Burnout doesn't exist, it's fine. But either way, thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.